Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Today's webinar is called Nudge Kids to Eat Better at School, and we're focusing on smarter lunchroom strategies that work. So really excited to share some great tangible strategies with you today that you can take back to your own schools and districts. This webinar is part of Action for Healthy Kids' Wellness Wednesday webinar series that takes place the second Wednesday of every month throughout the school year. So we'll send in the follow-up email some links to additional webinars that are coming up if you're interested in joining those as well. We're really excited today to provide you with some of these really tangible strategies, as I mentioned, to encourage kids to make healthier choices at school. So today I'm joined by Heidi Kessler, who's the Executive Director at the Cornell Center for Behavioral Economics and Child Nutrition Program. So very excited to have Heidi on the line. I'm also Heidi, so we'll be your Heidi duo for today. My name is Heidi Milby. I'm the Senior Manager of School Health Programs at Action for Healthy Kids. So today we're really excited to both together share with you some great strategies for you to use at your school and district. Before we get started, just a couple of logistics. So once you're linked in, you'll see a control panel, which is usually on the right-hand side of your screen. You can use either your telephone or your speakers to listen to the presentation, but we did go ahead and mute everyone to avoid that static and background interference. There's also a dialog box at the bottom of your control panel where you can type in questions as we're going along, and we've reserved some time at the end to get those questions answered for you. If we aren't able to do so, we will definitely make sure we address those via email following the webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and so links to the recording and to all of the handouts and links that we mentioned today will be sent to you within 2 to 3 business days. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we jump into the content, I want to give you a little bit of background about Action for Healthy Kids. So Action for Healthy Kids fights childhood obesity, undernourishment, and physical inactivity by helping schools become healthier places. So ultimately, it's our vision that we have a world in which every kid is healthy, active, and of course, ready to learn. Our network is made up of moms and dads, teachers, students, school and community leaders, school wellness experts that have really banded together to create healthier learning environments for our children. And ultimately, what we believe is that everyone has a role to play in ending the nation's childhood obesity epidemic, and we believe that our programs, our tools, and our resources can help make that possible. So we were founded in 2002 by former Surgeon General David Satcher, and today we have more than 110,000 members all across the country who are doing this great work in schools. We also partner with dozens of professional associations, government agencies, and corporations at the national, state, and local level. So really, again, everyone has a role to play in ending this epidemic and making sure our students are ready to learn. Why do we focus on schools? A number of reasons. We know that schools reach most children and adolescents in the community, and we also know that kids spend most of their time in school, around 1,200 hours per year. Most importantly, however, we know that healthy kids learn better. There's so much research out there that shows us that students that eat good food, are active, are really equipped for success. So for that reason alone, schools should be addressing healthy eating and physical activity. So of course, today we're here to talk about eating better. Studies have shown that undernourished children tend to have low energy, they're often irritable, they have difficulty concentrating. Many of you probably have noticed this in your own experience working in your district or your school. We know that this affects their academic performance, and so anything that we can do to encourage and improve those healthy eating behaviors is going to have a positive impact on student success. So today's Wellness Wednesday webinar will discuss those best practices and those strategies related to creating smarter lunchrooms. Many of the ideas that are shared today are referenced in Action for Healthy Kids' program called Game On, which you can find via our website. It's free, it's online, it's a program that's really intended to help schools practice good nutrition and physical activity habits at school. So the program itself is organized within the 6 steps that you see on your screen. As part of that, in step 4, there are more than 80 eat better and move more activity ideas. Smarter Lunchrooms is one of those activity ideas that includes some best practices and resources, creative ideas that your school can use to implement Smarter Lunchrooms techniques at your school. So I encourage you, check it out if you're not familiar with Game On. It can be a great resource not only for Smarter Lunchrooms, but for anything related to nutrition and physical activity that you're doing at your school. So we'll go ahead and share a link to Game On in the follow-up material so you have that. With Action for Healthy Kids, we help our members and supporters learn, act, and transform. So first, our goal today is for you to learn. We want you to walk away from the webinar understanding what Smarter Lunchrooms is and its connection to healthy and successful students. The second thing we hope that you get out of today is to act. We hope that you gather some ideas and strategies from the webinar on how you can take action in your own school so that you feel comfortable implementing Smarter Lunchroom strategies. And then finally, transform. Of course, we hope that the actions that you take at your school ultimately help transform your school culture for the long term to make sure that, of course, every kid is healthy and ready to learn. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Heidi, and she'll talk a little bit about the Smarter Lunchrooms movement. Heidi?
Thank you very much, Heidi. I'm very excited to be here, and I am as well. I'm very excited that we have two Heidis on the webinar. That's quite exciting. I think our parents would be proud. So I'm pleased to be able to contribute to today's objectives by talking a little bit about Smarter Lunchrooms. The Smarter Lunchrooms National Office is out of the Cornell Center for Behavioral Economics and Child Nutrition Programs. And what we do is we conduct research in thousands of schools across the country in order to identify what nudges can we use in a school cafeteria to help encourage kids to make the healthiest decisions they can. Ultimately, a Smarter Lunchroom nudges choices. It uses research-based suggestions to guide students to unknowingly make smarter, healthier choices. We can increase consumption of the healthiest foods in the cafeteria. A Smarter Lunchroom can increase sales by driving students to the Reimbursable Meal program. A Smarter Lunchroom is really able to maintain a variety of choice. We can nudge students without completely eliminating the less healthy choices from the menu or only raising prices on the less healthy foods. And finally, the recommendations and the strategies that Smarter Lunchrooms offers are low cost, and the majority of them are actually free. And since many cafeterias have a very limited budget, it's important that these suggestions are focused on changing the school environment without a lot of added cost. In order to help schools build Smarter Lunchrooms, the Smarter Lunchrooms National Office provides training, resources, and expert advice. And we can go ahead to the next slide. So the Smarter Lunchrooms concept is based on this theory of behavioral economics. And it sounds like a really lofty academic term. But what it really is it's looking at how environmental cues influence the way that people select and consume foods. Environmental influences include everything from packaging, how it's designed, how it's shaped, where it's located, to marketing, the atmosphere of the lunchroom, and prompting, either verbally or with signage. All of these things can greatly influence the amount of food that people select and consume. So in the next few minutes, we're going to go into the details of each of these 5 categories to give you some real concrete, specific action items that can be done in the lunchroom to help nudge students to make healthier choices. We're going to cover fruits, reimbursable meals, vegetables, targeted entrees, and dairy. So we'll get things started by talking about fruit. So fruit is generally a little bit easier to get students to consume than vegetables, but there are still some very effective strategies that can be used to up both the selection and consumption of fruits. One of the main things that we recommend are using beautiful, colorful signs to draw attention and highlight the fruit. Brightly colored signs that say fresh fruit today, or snappy apples, or monkey phones for bananas, or orange squeezers, or anything like that. Arrows pointing to the fruit, shining a light on the fruit, anything that you can do to draw attention and increase the visibility of the fruit in the lunchroom. Lots of times we see fruit in drab, gray, stainless steel chafing dishes, which is a common way to serve fruit in a school cafeteria. But when you take that fruit out and put it into a colorful bowl in a convenient location, we almost always see a significant increase in selection and consumption of fruit. Staff prompting is also a very effective strategy with both the fruits and vegetables. We all know that students have to take either a fruit or vegetable with their reimbursable meal, and we have options about how we prompt students to fulfill that requirement. So we could say something like, it's not a reimbursable meal, you have to have a fruit, it's not my fault. You have to take a fruit, or we could say, hey, how about grabbing a pack of raisins for later? Or hey, an apple comes with your lunch. So a little bit of different prompting can also be effective. Displaying the fruit near the register is also a really key strategy. We like to see fruit in at least 2 different locations on the serving line, with one of them being right next to the register. It gives that child the opportunity for a second chance. You might even have a note at the register that says, last chance for fruit. You can see evidence of one of our studies here that moving and highlighting the fruit increased selection and consumption of fruit by 102%. And we have some great visuals here. One thing I'll point out is that there's a variety of whole fruit mixed together in one bowl. That is a key strategy. So rather than having the green apples in one bowl, the plums in another bowl, and the oranges in another bowl, this school has increased perceived variety of the fruit by mixing those all together into one bowl. When we see increased variety, we tend to consume more, which is a great thing to do when we're talking about fruits or vegetables. All right, so a common goal of a school nutrition program operator is to increase sales of reimbursable meals. When a student selects a reimbursable meal, we know that they've had the opportunity to select a well-balanced meal from 5 different food groups. In addition, a reimbursable meal is partly or completely reimbursed by the government, hence the name reimbursable meal. So there's great interest in continuing to drive students to this healthy meal that's provided to them. A couple of key ways to drive participation in the reimbursable meal program is to display the featured meal on a sample tray or photograph. This really gives kids an opportunity to see what it is that they're being offered. It also allows them, in a plethora of choices, to be able to just say, I'll have that meal right there, looks good to me. We also recommend that school nutrition operators apply a fun name to that meal. That might be anything from the brain boosting meal to the athlete's meal or the chef's feast. But some kind of appealing, fun, and exciting name can be applied to that reimbursable meal. Another way to drive participation in the reimbursable meal program is to remove the competitive foods like chips and cookies or crackers and put them behind the service counter, where students have to ask a food service worker to hand them one of those options. It's not taking them away or saying no to cookies or no to chips, but it is making it slightly more inconvenient. And if we make those items a little bit less convenient and we make the fruit or vegetables more convenient, then we're more likely to see an uptick in fruit and vegetable sales than in the competitive food. And finally, we want to make sure that there's a reimbursable meal at every service line, including a line such as a snack window. So typically, a snack window might just contain a couple items. But when we work with schools, we really encourage them to make sure that they have all the components of a reimbursable meal, which might be as simple as adding a vegetable offering or adding a milk offering at that snack window. And that will help encourage kids to select the full reimbursable meal. Here's some pictures here. The picture on the left, you can see that the chips and some of the a la carte items are behind the cash register. So when students walk through the line, they're not picking those things up off the line instead of a reimbursable meal. But when they get to the cash register, if they decide that they still want a bag of chips or a cookie or crackers, then they have the opportunity to ask for it from the food service worker. I really like this picture because lots of times food service staff gets concerned that they have to have an extra staff person or make a big change in order to be able to put those a la carte items behind the register. But this shows that it's just right there, right where that person is standing, and it's pretty easy for them to just hand over that bag of chips if the student requests. And the image on the right, you can see how a school has set up a sample tray. So we all know that there might be plenty, a whole plethora of vegetables and a whole plethora of fruit available and a couple different entrees. But with a sample tray, what we encourage is a school nutrition program to pick the featured item. Pick the featured entree, the featured fruit, and the featured vegetable that you think goes best together, and try to market that with the sample tray. Alternative ways to do this are to put a clear cover over that tray if you're worried about little kids' fingers wandering into the tray. And alternatively, you can also use photos, taking photos of a feature meal and displaying that so that kids are able to point to that and say, yeah, I think I'll have that meal. So dairy is another important section where we want to be increasing student selection and consumption. A couple of key strategies that we have found effective to drive kids towards white milk instead of chocolate milk is to make sure that there is at least a third white milk in all the drink coolers. When we have 90 chocolate milks and 10 white milks, the impact of that is that the kids don't think it's a normal, regular thing to do to take the white milk. So what we're trying to do is make white milk convenient, attractive, and normative. Normative means that it's a normal, regular thing to be taking white milk. So increasing the amount of white milks offered contributes to that. We want to see white milk in every cooler. So it's very common to have white milk in the milk cooler. But if there's another cooler that has artificially flavored beverages, sports drinks, water, we'd really love to see white milk in that beverage cooler as well. Again, it's about convenience. So if it's more convenient to grab a drink from that other cooler, we want to make sure that there's a very healthy option available there. And making sure that it's in front of any other beverages as well. The results on this can really vary by school, but it actually ranges from about 28% to 46% increase in white milk sales just by making these changes. And here we have some really nice examples of milk being promoted appropriately. So we have half white milk here in this first image, and in the second one we have it nicely displayed in a cooler.
Alrighty, thanks Heidi. Heidi Milby here. I'm going to talk a little bit about just a couple more strategies around vegetables and featured entrees before we dive into the success story that Heidi K will share with us. So vegetables. First, give vegetables creative names. Heidi touched on this a little bit earlier when she gave some examples around fruits. But even simple adjectives can make a difference. So for example, crunchy cauliflower or tree tops for broccoli can make students want to select that item off of the line. Research does show that naming vegetables and identifying them, of course, by signs with those names can increase vegetable consumption by at least 40%. So it is something that works. It's a great way to engage students to support and creating creative names for foods. In just a couple of slides, I'll show you some more examples of creative names that you can use as well. So as I mentioned, one way to help brainstorm some of these creative names is by establishing what we call a snack committee, so a Student Nutrition Action Committee. And this is a committee of students that could either be a subcommittee of your school's health team, if you have a school health team. It could be an existing leadership group in your school, like a student council, or an existing student wellness team, especially if you're a high school and you have students engaged in wellness work. There's a variety of ways to make this happen, but the idea is that this committee can really help with Smarter Lunchroom strategies, from brainstorming those creative names, as we talked about, to hosting taste tests, helping you take photos of things like reimbursable meals or other things to kind of spruce up the cafeteria a bit, creating additional signage, helping with menu boards. There's a variety of different ways that they can support. And oftentimes, students get excited about this as a chance for them to be creative and to see an impact and to serve as a kind of a peer role model as well. And finally, another strategy to increase vegetable consumption is to offer individual salads that students can take as their vegetable selection, or of course offer a full salad bar. So a couple of tips for successful salad bars, if you do would like to have one, or you do currently have one, is to make sure that your salad bar is in a high traffic area of the lunchroom to encourage consumption. Sometimes we want to put it kind of in the corner to get it out of the way, but what we find is that students are more likely to select the salad bar option if it's in an area where they can easily access it. And also make sure that your utensils on the salad bar are appropriate for the particular item. So for example, use smaller tongs for things like croutons so we can avoid having crouton salads, but larger tongs for things like lettuce so that we can encourage students to select more of those items. Here's an example, a photo of a lunchroom that's, or of a salad bar that's doing a number of different things. There, of course, are opportunities to improve, perhaps having some more vegetables so it looks a bit fuller. But the thing that I wanted to point out here is that as the labels, so as you can see, they have creative names, snappy celery, crunchy California broccoli, cha-cha carrots, etc. And they're really clear, easy to read. So it's something that is not only encouraging students through those creative names, but also making it very clear what each item is. So let's talk about this final strategy, which is for featured entrees. So these are things that apply when you have a specific entree that you'd like to market for that day. So it might be your reimbursable meal that you'd really want to make sure that students are picking up because it has all those healthy options on one tray. So just as we discussed with vegetables, giving those entrees creative and descriptive names can also really help. So for example, including a menu board or a poster just outside the cafeteria that has a descriptive name of the entree can get students thinking about that selection before they even see it. So students, before they walk into the line, can already have an idea of what are the offerings, what sounds good to me, and that can help solidify their decision to make that healthy choice before they even get to the line. Make sure that you include signage on the line as well so it's really clear what entree you're featuring that day. So including that signage in multiple places is really helpful. Another strategy is to make the healthiest or the most nutrient-dense item the first one in the line. So research shows that the first entree in the line has an 11% advantage over the second option. So it makes sense, right? Students that are wanting to quickly choose their lunch might just take that first item they see. So why not put the healthiest entree for those students that are really going to just get in line, pick their entree, and move on. So again, a couple of photos. These photos are menu boards, of course. They look similar, but have a couple of unique features. So the first photo you can see here is super colorful. It's not just your traditional whiteboard. It's a little bit different, a little bit more exciting. You can see that everything is labeled either creatively or with a descriptive adjective. And it even shows the featured entree for the next day. So students are not only thinking about what they're going to choose today, but they're thinking about tomorrow. Well, what am I going to choose tomorrow? So it's a great way to kind of promote both options. And keep in mind that it really doesn't have to be a fancy menu board like the one you see on your screen to have an impact. Really just making sure that you're communicating effectively about what is on the line and communicating in a way that makes it appetizing and appealing. And then in the second photo, you can see that the menu clearly denotes what is being offered for each food group with descriptive words like fresh and shredded and whole wheat. So again, you don't have to get super creative in how you name things. Even a simple descriptor and adjective can make it sound more appealing. So for example, for the protein fajita chicken and shredded cheese, as opposed to just saying chicken and cheese, the fajita chicken and the shredded cheese gives it kind of an exotic, a yummy appeal. So as we mentioned, one of the easiest things you can do to make your lunchroom smarter is by naming fruits, vegetables, and entrees creatively. So for younger students, choosing names that are fun or imaginative or playful really have a great impact. So consider incorporating popular cartoon characters or perhaps a teacher or a principal's name for an extra bit of creativity. So a couple of the examples you can see on your slide are things like Crunch and Munch celery sticks, Gumball grapes, Tasty treetops, or Awesome Sauce applesauce. So again, a little bit silly, but something just to give it a little bit more of a creative name. And then for older students, focusing less on the playful names and more on the descriptors, so words like crunchy or fresh are things that have a great impact. So for example, if you're offering a Mediterranean salad, go ahead and call it a Mediterranean salad. Describe it, as opposed to just saying a salad. By saying Mediterranean, it sounds fancy, it sounds grown-up, it sounds adult-like, and it's something that will encourage older students to take. A couple of other suggestions that are on your screen: home-style spaghetti and meatballs, fiesta taco salad, freshly baked potato wedges. These are just a couple of examples, but you can see that the way that we message to older students versus younger students is a little bit different, but still has a similar impact. So many of these names come from the California Smarter Lunchrooms website as well as the general Smarter Lunchrooms website. So I encourage you to check those out. They have a number of great resources. Many of them have been made by schools that have had success at implementing these Smarter Lunchroom techniques. So I encourage you to check that out and see if anything appeals to you. And then also, as we mentioned before, ask students, survey students, see what appeals to them, what would make them want to choose an option by their name. So I'm going to pass it back over to Heidi Kay, who's going to share a success story that talks a little bit about Smarter Lunchrooms in action.
All right, thank you, Heidi. So this is one of my favorite success stories. This is South Fork Elementary School. The school is located in Idaho. And this is a picture of their service line before they became a Smarter Lunchroom. And as you can see with the big red arrow pointing down to a gray tub of canned fruit. This is how we found the fruit. This is actually quite typical. It's important when we're working with school cafeterias that we recognize that there's a very wide range of implementation and to really support each cafeteria in their own way to make the changes that they can make. So here you see. All right, and let's go to the next slide. So when the fruit was offered like that, we found that only 73% of students were taking a fruit. And of those, 30% of them were throwing it away without even tasting it. So there was clearly some room for improvement here. So the changes that the school decided to make was that they were going to offer at least 2 fresh and 2 canned choices per day. They increased the variety of fruit that they offered. They put the canned fruit out of that drab metal, plastic tub, and they put it instead in individual serving cups. And they added bright, colorful fruit bowls at the beginning of the line, which made sure that they had fruit in at least 2 locations on the service line. Here you can see a picture of a 3-tiered fruit basket that they put at the service line. So the results of these changes were really impressive. Now 95% of students take a fruit every single day, and wasted fruit dropped in half from 30% to 15%. And this last bullet is actually my favorite, that fruit from the school lunch line is now so popular that students who are bringing their lunch from home are also lining up to purchase a fruit a la carte. So I think that's a really nice added unanticipated bonus that the school saw. All right, so that was a quick overview of some ideas in 5 different areas of the lunchroom, some strategies that you might be able to implement to increase selection and consumption of healthier foods. The Smarter Lunchrooms National Office would love to still be here for you and support you as you're making these changes. And to share some highlights with you, I want to let you know that we've just started a national newsletter. It's called the Lunchroom Buzz, and you can go to our website to sign up right there, smarterlunchrooms.org. We're also just about to launch on Monday a national listserv for schools. This listserv is going to be called the Lunchroom Buzz, and it's on Google Groups, and that will be by invitation. So we can go ahead and send out an invitation to everyone who is on this webinar. We put up some awesome tips, if I don't mind saying so myself, on our Facebook page. So I really encourage folks to like it. You'll find daily tips on everything from how to make the fruit more attractive, what kind of creative names you can use for vegetables, as well as what's happening in other organizations that are also trying to help promote school food. On our website, you're going to find trainings, videos, worksheets, everything that you need to implement Smarter Lunchrooms. I'm very excited to share that we are going through a complete rebrand and a refresh of all of our materials and our trainings. We're coming out with a new look and feel, as well as a whole new website with new interactive, supportive modules that'll help support you in this work. That's all coming at the end of January. However, for the 104 people who are on this webinar, I'm so glad that you have stayed put, because this is the first peek that we have given on our newly designed Smarter Lunchroom scorecard. So we have a new improved scorecard. It has gone from a 100-point scorecard to a 60-point scorecard. This new scorecard incorporates new research that's been developed by the Ben Center and others in the past 3 years. It also incorporates user feedback from schools and partners who have been using the scorecard for a number of years, and we made great efforts to increase its user friendliness. This scorecard is going to be available very quietly on our website. It'll be up there tomorrow or Friday, and then there'll be a larger launch along with our new website and all the supportive materials at the end of January. I'm hoping on this call that there might be 4 or 5 people who would be interested in looking more closely at this scorecard. Preferably somebody who might not have too much experience with Smarter Lunchrooms. We've worked really hard to simplify our content, and I want to do one of those tests of making sure that we haven't simplified it too much. So if there are folks who would be interested in looking more closely at the scorecard and providing feedback, that would be most appreciated, and you'll find my email at the end of our presentation.
Great, thanks so much, Heidi. Really, really exciting stuff coming out of the Cornell Ben Center, so thanks for sharing. A couple of other quick things. I know we're a couple of minutes over. I promise we'll wrap up in the next 2 minutes. Wanted to let you all know about an opportunity to get nationally recognized. Many of you might be familiar with the Healthier U.S. School Challenge Smarter Lunchrooms initiative. Of course, it has Smarter Lunchrooms in the title. If you are interested in getting recognized for all the work that your school is doing around school nutrition, physical activity, parent involvement in implementing wellness policies, this could be a great opportunity for your school. So I've included some details here on the screen. For the sake of time, I won't go into too many additional details, except to say that it's a great opportunity for your school to get recognized in a really positive way. In Action for Healthy Kids, all of our staff around the country have been trained in supporting schools and getting recognized. So if you're interested, definitely let me know. We'll share the contact information at the end of the webinar, and we're happy to support your school and supporting you in Smarter Lunchrooms techniques, of course, but also in getting recognized as well. So at this time, questions. I know we're running short on time. There is one question. Heidi, I'm hoping you can answer for us. The question comes from Lindsay. She had said that there's a lot of kind of short-term improvements that are really positive with Smarter Lunchrooms, but she hasn't seen any long-term studies on their efficacy. Do you have any long-term evidence that you could share, or any other insight related to that? Heidi, you might be on mute.
Thank you. I was on mute. Yes, we have a study going on now that's looking at the long-term efficacy of the strategies. And so we don't have those results quite yet, but we'll be able to share them in the future. And another study that we've done did look at how often you need to refresh naming on the featured vegetables and fruits. And we found that up to 4 times a year is an effective amount of time to be changing out those creative names that you're using with your featured fruits, vegetables, and entrees. So twice a semester is good to be thinking about replacing those names to keep things fresh.
Great, thanks so much. And a couple of other folks, Heidi, have expressed their interest in the comment box on piloting the scorecard, so I'll make sure you get that information. For the sake of time, I want to go ahead and wrap up just to be mindful of everyone's time here. I'm just going to end with a link to our social media. If you're interested in joining Action for Healthy Kids, following some of our resources, we post a lot of great nutrition and physical activity ideas on our Pinterest page, Facebook, YouTube, etc. So I encourage you to check that out. Thank you again for everyone for participating in our Wednesday Wellness webinar today. I hope you guys found some great strategies that you can implement. We look forward to hearing about your successes and supporting you in your challenges. As I mentioned, a follow-up email will come in the next 2 to 3 business days with a recording and a link to some of the resources we had talked about. And in the meantime, we hope that you continue to stay engaged with us, and good luck at making changes to your school.
Thank you, everyone.